Hello folks, my name's Jared.
And this is Brandon.
Today we're coming at you with a discussion video for G.I. Joe Retaliation, the movie.
Yes, G.I. Joe 2, or as it's known in other countries, some other countries, G.I. Joe Back to Revenge.
Back to Revenge, baby. So, as for the concept of revenge, I think the whole point of Retaliation is not exactly to retaliate against Cobra, but to retaliate against Rise of Cobra, the movie. The Rise of Cobra, okay. When it came out, let me put it this way. I was so mad about the movie and what it was doing that I refused to go see it.
Yeah.
Absolutely refused to.
I saw it begrudgingly, and I was so... It's one of those things, I don't find myself too close to things often, but I was so close to G.I. Joe and I loved it so much that I was absolutely devastated by the movie. And I hated it for the first couple of years that it existed. On one of our old blogs, I wrote this absolutely scathing review, and it's not that the things I said weren't true, because I didn't write anything that was, it was all very correct analytical stuff, but time passes and the dust settles, and what do we think of Rise of Cobra now, Jared?
I think Rise of Cobra is a lot of fun. I think that when viewed as a very loose adaptation of G.I. Joe, that you can enjoy it for what it is, especially dopey Channing Tatum. If you kind of take it for comedy, then it's really good stuff.
Yeah.
I think that it's actually pretty competent. The highlight of the movie is, of course, Christopher Eccleston as Destro, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt was incredible Cobra Commander when he's not wearing the Cobra Commander costume. So
I want to split the nature of the film and say that I think every one of the villains is very good in the movie, honestly, and that the heroes is really where it falters, which, for the sake of G.I. Joe, is good, because this is an opinion that a lot of folks out there on the internet share. The villains were always our favorite part of G.I. Joe.
Right.
It's perhaps the one brand of that type, Transformers or Masters of the Universe, or Thundercats or something like that, where the villains are more interesting. I mean, we thought, and there's nothing wrong with the heroes. We love, all the Joes too, but it's just, the characters we were fascinated by when we were kids were Cobra Commander and Destro, so I think they were handled very well, with very interesting performances in that first movie. Especially Destro, just, except for the lack of the mask consistently through the story, it's a very good adaptation of his character arc.
however, though, despite all the good things about Rise of Cobra, to say that it was a good adaptation.
To say that it was a movie
is not,
about as much as we can say.
That's really about it. It was a fun movie that was kind of a cool, loose idea of G.I. Joe, but it really failed miserably in a lot of areas where it had to succeed. So now, fast forward, Stephen Sommers is away from G.I. Joe, thankfully. Not that Stephen Sommers is a terrible director, he just didn't know anything about Real American Hero. He knew something about the dolls.
Clearly,
he
didn't know anything about Van Helsing either.
Right.
But that's another, that's a 10-year-old discussion now.
I know that since he was gone, everybody was sort of anticipating who it was going to be to step up, and very unexpectedly, John Chu, the guy that directed those, Step Up movies and Justin Bieber documentary.
I have never watched anything he directed. Okay, and I don't have any desire to either.
Right.
I'll never. I hope that I love Retaliation, but it will never inspire me to go back and watch any of his
Step Up
previous
to the
work.
Streets.
Yeah,
anything,
just not my cup of tea.
But it's often with these sort of offbeat choices that you get something really special. And judging from the trailers and everything we've seen so far, Retaliation has done a lot to try and make up for the sins of its predecessor. Even though it is supposed to be in continuity with Rise of Cobra, what they've done is, rather than address a lot where a lot of the characters are, they've just dumped those characters for new ones.
Left it very ambiguous, I would say. I'm sure there's very little identification of any of the events of the previous film. The biggest holdover, of course, being the President of the United States, is, in fact, secretly Zartan. And if you didn't see Rise of Cobra, good. No, really, you probably had better see it before you see Retaliation, honestly. But if not, it's very clear. They give it away in the trailer right away. So I think it's something they don't want people to feel obligated to have seen the first film necessarily.
One of the big elements that got revised from Rise of Cobra was the handling of Cobra Commander himself. Now, that was probably one of my very biggest gripes with the first movie, because I always felt like you wouldn't have to do much to Cobra Commander to make him work in a movie.
Yeah. He has two iconic outfits, and instead of doing one, they pick neither. Failing that, he has other, like the battle armor from the 80s line too, that was in the Deke cartoon series. that they could have used, but they didn't. So here's a character everybody loves, and he's got these two beautiful, highly recognizable outfits. But let's not use either one of them. Let's just do something stupid.
I'll always blame Sigma 6 for how a lot of things turned out in the movie. I think that they sent Stephen Summers what they had from recent stuff, and that was Sigma 6 toys.
Yeah.
Sigma 6 character designs.
Yeah, the cartoon series.
Right. The suits the Joes are wearing, the reactive impact armor, Cobra Commander's design, all heavily influenced from Sigma 6.
Yeah, just the roster, heavy duty being on the team.
Right. So if you're looking for a finger to point, then you should probably point it at that show, which I don't think it was a terrible show or anything, but I'm saying that handled the way it was. It didn't translate very well to live action. And so Cobra Commander is something that apparently has been fixed. His visual is so much better. Great costume. We'll see how the performance is when we go see the movie. We've not heard anything from him yet. So.
No, which worries me. But hopefully somebody has had some pretty good judgment. And I loved Joseph Gordon-Levitt's voice as the Doctor. I thought was a terrific Cobra Commander voice, but his voice as the Commander was just terrible.
Well, it was modulated to the point where his performance wouldn't even come through.
I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't Levitt doing the line at the end of the movie. If it could be anybody else. Honestly, it could be me. For all anybody knows. But I want to take just a minute to talk about that. The element of the visuals, and that's the big disappointment. The story was serviceable, and acceptable at the very least. It's just, here's a film that's based on a toy line, and what is a toy if it's not half, the look? That's why toys appeal to us, especially when we're kids, is, their aesthetics. So, for a simple story to be good enough, I don't have any problem with, but to portray the decades of visual continuity was disappointing.
And so now we see that not only is the visual continuity kind of being restored, but the story has been refocused on some more real American hero friendly characters. Particularly, we've got Lady J, who I was really glad to see after Scarlet was just awful in the first movie. Scarlet was by far the worst G.I. Joe on the team.
Probably my least favorite part of the movie.
And now we've got Roadblock, which is very exciting since Heavy Duty was very unfaithfully portrayed in the first movie by a really good actor.
Oh yeah,
but just absolutely wrong for Heavy Duty.
And I don't have any problem generally with an ethnic change, and it's not like they turned Heavy Duty white, but he's British in Rise of Cobra, and part of that is that they're portraying a international team of G.I. Joes in Rise of Cobra, when typically it's an American military force. But I've seen that actor. I apologize. I cannot remember his name. It's very long. I've seen him in other films. He was in Faster with The Rock, and he did a terrific American accent. And he could have been a fantastic Heavy Duty, but they just didn't. That's not the way they saw it.
There's also some. Let me see who else. Oh yeah, and we have DJ Catrona as Flint. Some of y'all may not realize that Catrona was actually cast to play Superman in the abandoned Justice League Mortal that was going to be done a few years ago. So that was very interesting for Catrona.
And, Lady J is played by Andrea Pilecki,
Padalecki.
Yeah, who was going to play Wonder Woman in the TV series. That the pilot was shot, but it didn't get sold. So
pretty interesting stuff.
You have Superman and Wonder Woman on the team together.
Not bad. And of course we have Black Adam as well.
Or Lobo, whoever he winds up being.
Well, The Rock is, of course, who we're talking about, who's playing Roadblock. And there was a lot of rumors surrounding The Rock that because of his connection with Stephen Summers, thanks to the Mummy films, as the Scorpion King, that he was going to make a cameo appearance as somebody in Rise of Cobra.
Shipwreck was tossed around a lot. There were a couple other names. So thank God that didn't happen because it left the door wide open for him to play a character he was actually suited for.
Now, the rumor was this, that there was a script, but it was a modular script. And the idea, according to people that tried out, was that there was sort of generic Joe roles in the movie. And there was a list of names that Paramount and Hasbro had come up with of G.I. Joe characters. And they could fill in any of these parts with these names and sort of, redo a few of the lines, rewrite it a little bit, and make it fit. Apparently, The Rock had a huge choice of different G.I. Joes he could portray. Everybody from Gung Ho. There was even one rumor that suggested that one of the characters that The Rock could play was Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah.
I don't really know how that would have worked since Sergeant Slaughter is a real person. So, sorry, Remus.
Yeah. That's another, if there's one disappointment, is that Sergeant Slaughter will not be in the film. And again, there was a rumor that the role played that Colton takes in the film, Joseph Colton, General Joe Colton, was originally intended for Sergeant Slaughter. That was Chew's intention, that they would need help from an old warrior, and they would find Sergeant Slaughter to help them out. And Paramount wouldn't go for it. They just said there was no way, it wasn't bankable. So they exchanged Sergeant Slaughter's role for Colton, who is the original Joe, the character in the comics developed by Larry Hama, who pays tribute to the original 12-inch character from the 60s. And he's, of course, being portrayed by Bruce Willis in the film, which does nothing but add to our excitement because, like every warm-blooded American, we love Bruce Willis, especially Die Hard.
So even though it was a shame to lose Sergeant Slaughter, to get Bruce Willis, that's not exactly a bad trade-off.
No.
Hopefully Sarge can still make it into G.I. Joe 3. I would have really loved it if they could have got Sarge in there for G.I. Joe 2, but, can't have everything you want. And this is a movie that gives us practically everything we want.
Yeah.
As for Snake Eyes, even though the character returns, and clearly he and Storm Shadow's past and their battles from Rise of Cobra are still completely in continuity, and this is just a continuation, with Storm Shadow apparently coming back from the dead. Snake Eyes does get a fantastic costume makeover.
Yeah.
The costume for the first movie was laughable, maybe is the right word.
Silly. Ridiculous.
It's not so bad from a distance. Like it works, and it works on kind of a campy level.
I remember seeing that first photo they released, which was the first official image for Rise of Cobra, and thinking, "Oh, yeah, this is they're doing it right." It obviously was not representative, or the truth is it was representative to the point that they made everybody look like Snake Eyes.
I kept telling Brandon that's what it was going to be.
Yeah,
I was trying to prepare him for the worst.
Yeah, because I kept, I was very supportive initially, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this looks great."
I said, "Nope, every single one of them is going to wear these outfits."
But then the second character they revealed was Scarlet, and she's in the reactive impact suit, and I was like, "Okay." I was still trying to justify it to myself. I said, "Okay, she's a ninja, just like Snake Eyes. Later in the comics, in Ninja Force. So she could have an outfit like Snake Eyes too, right? 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 And then with the floodgate opened and
never did turn out. No.
Everybody looked terrible.
But so I'm really glad to see them redesign Snake Eyes' costume with sort of some Dark Knight influences with the armor and things. It just looks great.
And no mouth.
No mouth.
Thank the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Instead, they have this really cool rig going where it's like a smooth face covering, but there is a grill that he can breathe through. And if you look closely, there's an Arashikage symbol right there on the mouth. So pretty
covered
cool.
Up by some wire mesh.
Also, if you look real closely, you can actually see Ray Park's eyes a little bit through the new visor. So pretty neat.
I really dig it.
There's also some slightly off black, almost brown pads that are on Snake Eyes' costume right here and here. So that's really great.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of visual diversity, which I really appreciate.
Also, Snake Eyes' sword is much more interesting as it has sort of a wooden-looking handle. So, pretty neat.
It just, it traditionalized him a little bit more, which I really dig. And Storm Shadow gets a little bit of a revamp. He has some additional features on his costume, some more buckles and things. It's a little closer than Snake Eyes is, but it's still it's a good refinement of that suit from the first movie, which was really the best looking thing that they did, the most traditional.
We also have Jinx in the movie, which I really appreciate. Being fans of the original 87 G.I. Joe movie, it was a really big deal for us that Jinx would make it into the film.
Can I break there to do a little bit of Globulus? Can I please?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Know that I am Globulus, supreme ruler of this kingdom of Cobra Law.
I think I'm going to go get a sandwich.
My dream is that Globulus makes it into one of these live-action films. Please, oh please, Globulus. I'm the only person in the world praying.
He just
for that
prayed to Globulus. He said, "Please, oh please, Globulus,
please, Cobra Law,
Cobra Law,
the bizarre snake serpent that Alan Moore worships."
Sheepos.
Anyway, most assuredly, Globulus will not be in these films, so I'm going to have to keep praying or make my own movie.
Keep praying to Globulus, my friend. Keep it up. So that's great that Jenks made it in. Also, one of the big additions to the movie is Firefly.
Yes.
And of course, Firefly will be portrayed by none other than the Punisher himself, Ray Stevenson. So
one of the best actors around and one of our very favorites. Here's a guy that we had a lot of misgivings about because through the development of Punisher Warzone, we were like, oh, this guy's a joke. Look at him. We hadn't watched Rome at the time. I've actually still not watched Rome, although I hear it's excellent. Really didn't know anything about it, but man, we sure love Punisher Warzone, and especially Stevenson. Absolutely made the movie. Would not have succeeded without him. Killed the Irishman, which I really dug. And he was in Thor, even. So he's had a lot of mainstream gigs since then. And probably the most elated I was by any of the casting was Stevenson as Firefly, because it was just so very appropriate to the way that I felt about the character that I thought he ought to be portrayed in the film.
now the unsung villain of the piece is, of course, Zartan. He will be portrayed by two actors that we know of, and whoever else he happens to turn into maybe in the movie.
Yeah.
There's Jonathan Pryce, the British actor who played the president in Rise of Cobra. I was very, very nervous that Jonathan Pryce would not make it into Retaliation.
Yeah.
Very, very happy to see him be back. He was one of the very best parts of Rise of Cobra. Not only that, but it seems as though from the trailers that John Pryce will be playing Zartan through most of the movie.
I suppose, we were concerned about Pryce returning. But after seeing the initial trailers, the concern became, will Arnold Vosloo be returning? He had portrayed Zartan in Rise of Cobra before he turned into the president.
And he was really one of the only really positive parts of the movie as well. To most people,
Very
agreed,
good
Vosloo was very scene-stealing when he played Zartan.
But luckily, as seemingly confirmed by a recent TV spot, if I am not mistaken, I saw a full-on shot of Vosloo as Zartan prior to morphing back into Jonathan Pryce. So I'm glad to see these back in. The rumor is that there will be a big battle scene with Zartan at the end of the film. So I assume he'll turn back into Vosloo for that. I don't think we're going to get a computer-generated Jonathan Pryce jumping around.
I really hope he's doing like backflips and stuff. Yeah. You sneaky Joes, you! I'll take you all.
Much as I would love to see that, I don't think it's going to happen. So
I think it would be pretty cool. But we all had a good laugh at that first figure. But you never know. Hey, he may be in that garb.
I just hope he puts on a hood at some point. Maybe I'd like to see him freak out during a morph and get the symbols over his eyes, the color change symbol. What I would especially love is if at one point he takes a backpack off and pulls a face out of it and puts it on. That's what I'd really like. It's not going to happen.
Other big elements of the movie that we were really, really happy to see are the HISS tanks that will be in the film. Originally, we thought that the Tread Ripper, the little mini tank, the Joe's Drive, we thought that would be the extent of the HISS tank in the movie, but lo and behold, like real Pursuit of Cobra HISS tanks are in the movie, like gigantic ones that they build, those
from the ground up, and they're
incredible.
They're beautiful, exactly the way I would want a HISS tank to appear in a film. All sorts of other great stuff. The Red Ninja Clan is going to play a pretty major role in the film, it seems, and I can't wait to see some of the action that we get from that. Should be some death-defying stunts and some excellent sword combat. There's apparently going to be some minor G.I. Joe characters in the film. Mouse, who is a throwback to a character from the short-lived Sergeant Savage toy line from the mid-'90s, will be portrayed by Joseph Mozella, I believe is his name, the young actor from the original Jurassic Park.
He played Tim in Jurassic Park.
Clutch will make it into the film, according to the action figure line, into a calendar from last year. And then we've heard things like Lieutenant Falcon may appear. There's going to be a large group of Joes at the beginning of the film when Duke and Roadblock meet up at the what I assume is a desert base of some kind. So it could be all sorts of characters. I'd hate for them to all get introduced and then get killed immediately, which is what it looks like is going to happen. But I'll be glad to see some of those characters make it in nonetheless.
Well, that's why, of course, they have to go back to Revenge.
Yes.
Now, this leads to the big question. What about Duke?
Yeah.
From the trailers that we've seen, it appears that Duke dies in the movie, and the earlier reports from those very limited screenings was that, yes, Duke dies with no explanation.
He was going to bite the big one.
No hint that he might still be alive. Duke is just dead.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be the first one to say I do not believe that they'll go through with that.
Yeah.
We'll see. It'll be interesting when you guys watch this video after the movies come out if we were right or wrong, but I just don't think that Hasbro can possibly let that happen to Duke.
I don't think they'll let them do it, and I don't want them to do it. I would prefer, I want Duke right back for G.I. Joe 3. We were kind of critical of Tatum, in the first film, But he really grew on us, and we've seen him in a lot of other projects since then, like 21 Jump Street,
Right.
That we absolutely loved. So, I think it'd be a shame not to let him have another like a big try at the character. I think he could do something real special.
Well, 2012 was kind of the year of Channing Tatum, according to Hollywood. So I think that at this point, Paramount sees Tatum as too big of an asset to lose for another G.I. Joe film. It is highly questionable if the problem really was Tatum's scheduling, that he couldn't be in Retaliation as much as they wanted to. That's the official story. Or if it really was that the studio didn't really want him because he didn't test well.
Yeah.
And that's apparently it, that he didn't test well. And a lot of people put down that he was their least favorite part of Rise of Cobra, which is, I don't know if they noticed that Scarlett was in the movie or not, but she's by far much worse than good old Taterhead ever thought about being. So,
the elephant in the room remaining is the delay. You may or may not know that this film was supposed to come out a long time ago. It was scheduled for release in May 2012, and up until about the end of April 2012, that's what we believed, and we had already gone out and started buying toys, and the hype was at absolute critical mass. I mean, we just could not wait any longer to see the movie, and lo and behold, guess what, guys? You're waiting another 9 months to see the movie. So, what a way to kill enthusiasm. We could handle a month or 2 months or 3 or 4 months, but 9 months, it was a ridiculous, time to wait.
Can I just say that you can make a human baby in that amount of time?
Yeah, well, there are children who were not alive who are now going to be taken to the theater to see this film. It's kind of a miracle.
Yep, sort of a little mini miracle. And, it's a real shame that had to happen. I feel like it killed a lot of really positive initial enthusiasm in the movie. However, it is a second chance. If the reports are to be believed, they really did kill Duke in the first cut of the movie, and some of the reports were really negative of the first cut of the movie. John Chu and company can say what they will, but I guarantee that at least one element of this delay was to tighten up the edit, do some more screen testing, and to bring Duke back from the dead. Now, there was a lot of rumors buzzing around that they had did all this crazy reshoot stuff. It's now been confirmed by numerous sources, including Adrian Pedelecki, in an interview a couple of days ago, that there were 2 days of reshoots. And that's a story that's been corroborated between her and John Chu in different interviews. So there's only 2 days of reshoots, but that is just enough time to bring Duke back from the dead.
Yeah, the official statement being that they shot just enough new material to make the 3D process, some good 3D specific stuff for the movie, which is a big part. Paramount's claim is that they delayed the film to post-convert it to 3D. We all know that it takes less than 9 months to do that. But so something else is going on, and 2 days of filming, that's, like Jared said, plenty enough time to change a few small elements of the movie, and the 9 months gives them, all the time in the world to tighten up the edit. And so at this point, if it's a sloppy edit, if it's put together poorly, they have absolutely no excuse.
And the thing about it was that production was always very rushed on Retaliation when they were filming the movie. They started shooting it really about a month or two too late to get to the release date that they wanted to. And I guarantee some of this time has been used to tighten up effects, to improve some of the visuals. A major problem with Rise of Cobra was even Stephen Sommers would point it out in the commentary. He talked about some of the effects were unfinished because they were under such a crunch for time. They didn't have enough time to design anything. So it's good to see that, maybe one good thing about the delay is Paramount sort of learned their lesson. So it's going to be very satisfying to finally see this thing, but doubly crushing if it's not very good after we've had to wait so long.
So the delay, very soul crushing at the time. I remember telling people more than once, when they asked me, "What are you excited about? You excited about Batman? You excited about the Avengers?" I'd say, "Yeah, I'm excited about G.I. Joe. It's the number one on my list because I'd been so let down by the first one, and here is what I thought was our big chance at a real G.I. Joe movie, and it didn't happen. So, but could be the delay could be the best thing that ever happened for it. So I hope so, and still, it's the hype's built back up, and I'm thrilled to see it."
And you know what? The time has actually passed by much quicker than I thought it would.
I thought it would be excruciating. But.
And honestly, if Joe had come out when it was going to, it would have been in a much, much too packed kind of summer movie season.
Swallowed up.
I think it would have gotten lost in the fanfare. So here's the thing. G.I. Joe Retaliation could either mean the death or the life of G.I. Joe as a brand. Why is this so important? Okay, let's look at where we're at now. Rise of Cobra did well for Paramount. It did. It did well for Paramount. It did not do Transformers numbers. The toys did pretty well for Hasbro. They shipped a lot of units.
It secured the life of the brand for several years after. They did some very successful runs of toys following the movie. So, I think that future is fairly sound as of right now. But as a mainstream brand, with media, the failure or success of Retaliation, I think, will directly impact, obviously, any future feature films, live action films, but also any animation or anything like that we may get in the future.
Here's the thing. Paramount, it's not like Rise of Cobra was such a big success that Paramount had no choice but to do a sequel, which we see, very often. There's just no choice. You've got to do a sequel. It was too big a hit, hangover type of situation. No, it really wasn't. Instead, they're doing a sequel because they want to, because they have enough confidence in the brand, and Hasbro as well, that they feel like there's another shot for the movie, that maybe it can, it can do something a little bit better this time. Maybe the movie can do better. Maybe the movie can be better.
It's almost as if it's their first try again, because the film is so different. And if they give it 2 tries and it doesn't really catch either time, then I don't think it's something they're going to look at doing again.
So it's with great enthusiasm and really great seriousness that we really encourage you, despite any of your misgivings about Rise of Cobra, about the toys, anything. I encourage you to not only go see Retaliation a couple of times, but buy some of the toys while you're out that day, if you could. Both of those things will be extremely instrumental in getting any more G.I. Joe product. Now, I know what you're thinking. I don't want this, and if I don't buy these, this will send a big message to Hasbro, and if I don't go see the movie, it'll send a big message to Paramount that I want G.I. Joe to be different. Oh, it will be different. There won't be G.I. Joe. Not really, anyway. G.I. Joe will be a very, very small, limited type of special thing.
Look at the situation right now with Transformers. That first film gave life back to the brand. I don't think Transformers would still be around in the capacity, definitely not in the capacity it is today, but I think it would be barely around at all if it wasn't for the success of those live action films. And now we're getting some things that people never thought we would. There's a brand new gigantic Metroplex figure coming out. And those are the types of fan-specific items that are only possible because of the success of mainstream media. You might not like these live-action G.I. Joe films, but if they succeed, they'll only lead to better things for the die-hard fans and things that you'll appreciate, even if you may hate that these feature films led to them.
And so really, if you want more good G.I. Joe stuff, then Paramount and Hasbro have your wallet held ransom. Basically, you've got to invest in this stuff. And my suggestion to you is don't do what I did with Rise of Cobra. I was so angry and so stuffy about it that I spent the whole time the movie was out being miserable. I didn't buy any of the toys. And then when I sort of gave it a chance, figured out I liked the toys, I then went on a crash spree to get all the toys. Granted, I did get a lot of them on clearance. So. And by the way, I do have a pretty much complete 3 3/4 Rise of Cobra collection. So me and Rise of Cobra made out pretty good later.
The best of pals. The truth is, the old truth, these studios, these big companies, they don't owe you anything. They're not going to do anything just because you want it. These things have to be successful or you're not going to get what you want. So do yourself a favor and do Hasbro a favor in the process. And please just partake of Retaliation, any way you can. See the movie, buy the toys. And I'm sure there's going to be fast food premiums and all that kind of stuff.
Burger King, apparently.
Yeah. Burger King did the Rise of Cobra toys and the Sigma 6 toys. So, all that kind of stuff. The success of those tie-ins, is a big message to Paramount and Hasbro as well.
So what we're saying is go out, see the movie twice that day, and on the way there, buy a Cobra Commander. On the way back, buy a Snake Eyes. Eat beforehand breakfast at Burger King, and then pick up a dinner at Burger King. And when you get home, buy a copy of Rise of Cobra on Blu-ray while you're out, just for good measures,
And then Retaliation will be on DVD in 3 months anyway, so you won't have a very long wait. You can buy 2 or 3 copies. And
there you go.
You can go out and Redbox it too and order it through Netflix. So if you love G.I. Joe at all, you've got to make this work, because if it doesn't, I'm afraid that's going to be just about the end.
Right. And if you think Joe will have another opportunity like this, you are wrong. Retaliation is it. So, folks, do us a favor, do Hasbro a favor, and Paramount a favor. Get out there and support G.I. Joe Retaliation. We're very, very excited for it, and we hope to bring some more videos to you guys about Retaliation, and definitely a big review about Retaliation after it comes out.
Over a year in the making, years in the making, this review, so let's hope it does not disappoint, and I really don't think it will. So.
I think it's going to be a great time at the movies. So until next time, folks, this has been Jared.
And this has been Brandon.
Rate, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear back from you.
Drop us a comment and tell us your thoughts about Retaliation and Rise of Cobra and where you think the brand's going, and we'd really appreciate it. Until next time.
Till next time.
Take care.
God bless.